The Emotional Orphan Manifesto. A work in progress. Prelude. I am not a hero, possess no fortune, have not changed or influenced the course of mankind or history in any way. I am not a messiah or a movie of the week. I am unaware of any whose life has been permanently altered by knowing me, and for the most part, I know absolutely nothing about the lives today of those touched or crossed paths with. On the other hand, I am no serial killer, thief, dictator, malingerer, or miscreant. I am not in jail or some institution. Some were sure that I would be. I am not dead. Bets were surely placed on how long that I would last. I am the product of and the son of a golden child. I have so much potential and opportunity, or so I've been told. Frequently. Mine is a story the world could probably do without, but for me, it is the one that must be told. Chapter 1. A wise man said, after being told of his impending death from a terminal illness, I've lived my life exactly the way I chose, and I intend on living my death the same way. Now, this for me started some soul searching. How had I lived my life? I found through my introspection that I had lived it in bits and pieces, glimmers, glimpses, equations with no sums. I felt as though I'd only been given 55 minutes for every hour I had lived, or at least that I had only used that many. The others, well, they just ticked away into nowhere. And if I watched it on TV, I wondered, would it be as tragic as my excuses would have them to be? Could it be wrapped up as a comedy? Perhaps a comedy of errors, as absurd and ridiculous as Lucy and Ricky, or the Honeymooners, or anything that Hollywood could possibly dream up? Would it be like I had been punked, or simply another soap opera? We now return for the second half of Days of Our Minutia. I do believe, however, it could never be as popular. I suspect, when compared to a steady fare of reality TV, my life has had very little TV-worthy reality. Poets, authors, writers, and artists, they all stick to the notion that you should never show a work that's in progress, and as common and as accepted as this may be, and at the egotistical risk of giving myself one of these lofty titles, I have no choice but to show this work, even after I'm long gone, with or without my answers. This work may never be complete. Magicians, they all have a code which demands they never reveal the secrets of their magic. Those blessed with the gift of magic, not the gift of a sleight hand, well, they don't need such a code. Theirs is no trick, and they know no secrets which make their illusions real. They only know they are gifted. Their belief in the conversion of illusion to reality is so powerful that it actually can occur for them, as a man thinketh, and all that jazz. Since I'm not dexterous enough to be a prestidigitator, or since my belief in magic is not strong enough to make anything happen, the writing of this text is an exercise designed to put my belief in magic or in miracles to the test. Willingness combined with belief and action gets results. In this case, miracles or magic, which can make a difference or affect change in my life. I'm not really sure how to go about saying whatever it is that I think is so damn important. I have been accused of being long-winded. However, I've collected some really entertaining tales, which I'm pretty certain would hold my attention if I was to hear them from someone else. Most importantly, somewhere in these rambling, disjointed remembrances of mine lies an answer for me, an explanation or a reason for my position in this world, something to help me make sense of it all. I suppose the way to get to it is to simply tell the tales. I must clarify up front that although I am in the throes of an existential crisis, it's led me here to finally put a pen to paper, and I use that term crisis hesitantly. I consider myself a fairly spiritual, if not religious man. I do not question the existence of angels and gods. I get the idea of a higher purpose, and have even devoted a portion of my life to defining exactly what that purpose is for me. I've battled and beaten a number of my own demons and skated death way too many times. I'm not so vain as to believe that I could have done so without divine providence and intervention. The issues I wrestle with today are more related to the confusion that I feel about the seemingly minimal long-term impact these triumphs have had. No matter the effort, sincerity, willingness, or the growth I have attempted, exercised, or exhibited, ultimately my results tend to be the same. Circumstances come full circle. The fears and the setbacks seem the same. My meaningful relationships usually have similar outcomes. Peace, popularity, property, and prosperity tease me, and then they're gone away once more. It's always been this way, and to lose the mustard seed of faith that I have managed to call on when needed, or when I couldn't do it myself, well, that would most certainly signal my demise. I suppose the answers to all the whys and a refill on the hope is the holy grail I seek by telling these tales. Maybe even you, the reader, will find some answers as well. Certainly my ego would love that. Even better, though, I might get a little closer to fulfilling the aforementioned higher purpose. God knows that would be timely, so on with it. Chapter 2. My first real memory in life is Sean Connery. Thunderball, the James Bond film, was playing on that big screen in front of my mom. We were at the mid-60s posh. Save us from the downtown, leave us in the suburbs. Lenox Square. Not mall, mind you, square. Malls had not been invented yet. I will speak of Lenox on many occasions. I have an ongoing and annoying habit of returning to the familiar places. My life and reaction to it has had me riding the pendulum. I swing from one extreme to the other, and when the ride allows me some slight control, I usually returned to some familiar place, person, behavior, or a combination of these three that offered me some comfort, something familiar. My mind and memory, they don't always serve me so well. The tender moments of a son and a mother gathering some together time at a suburban movie theater and the larger-than-life adventures of a suave British international spy are warm fuzzies which could never be replaced nor duplicated at Lennox or anywhere else. I naturally forgot the argument she had had with my father that led to this act of defiance, instead of Mom polishing all the furniture with lemon pledge. My other returns there are generally for much different reasons, with much less heartwarming results. My dentist was there. He rebuilt my smile after I broke the bicycle restriction, got hit by a car, and lost 2 of my brand new permanent teeth. I had many shoplifting competitions there with my junior high school hoodlum buddies, way before prevention devices and real gangs. After getting the crap beaten out of me while skipping school in Chastain Park for being a 15-year-old drunk, dumb smartass, I ended up there in a stupor, covered in blood, for about 4 hours before I even knew it. No one would offer me help at all, but I did fall in love with Valerie Knight that day. She took care of me on the public transportation bus ride home. Call me, Val, I miss you. See, it's that pendulum again. I even saw a drag queen spend more money on a dress there than I have ever seen spent on one dress to this day. Tips from the locker room made the night before made it possible. I was there to see Bobby Brown and his posse get banned from the mall before Whitney tried to save him, then subsequently fall out of grace with him. That was the 70s, and that was the 80s for you in suburbia. I can assure you that downtown was certainly not much more dangerous. I was always where I went, and I was the only real danger. Coupled with the unyielding and paradoxical circle that fate had in store, presenting the same general results I've always ended up with, like loneliness and poet's poverty. I can always find justification for my excesses, my excuses, my ex-wives, and I can do it all in sweet self-pity. But I digress. Chapter 3. Age 6. Self-imposed turmoil really starts then. I decided that what I wanted to be when I grew up, before I even started school. I wanted to be a liar, be an asshole, a ladies' man, and invisible to myself. So I set about seeking that goal. Little Johnny and his family lived directly behind us. Since I had a swing set, a tiger, a dog, and the pseudo-security of a chain-link fence, war, cops and robbers, and tag were events generally held at my home. I suspect that the huge picture window in my mom's Hawkeyes was more likely the case than Tiger as a babysitter was. I remember feeling more trapped than secure. I really don't have any recollection of ever playing anywhere else but that yard. A typical Georgia summer day, 106 degrees and 112% humidity. Chain link fence, hot enough to melt a 6-year-old hand like a grill makes a burger. I really wanted to climb in the fence and visit Johnny. There was something mysterious about the house I could always see, but never really visit. Mom had indicated something dark, something nefarious. Much later, I was informed it was because the mom was an alcoholic. I laughed. We would have gotten along really well. Being the well-adjusted poster child that I was at the time, I went to my mom and I asked for permission to cross the border so that I could go and play at Johnny's. And I was told in her own, very loving, overprotective way, absolutely not. I wasn't sure why wanting to play there made me crazy, but apparently it did. I whined and I begged, just the way that little boys do, but all to no avail. All of my pleading got me one thing, a stern admonishment to not scale the wall and to not ask again. Now the small devil on my left shoulder spoke much louder to me than the small angel that was on my right. Ever since my father jump-started my first spiritual crisis by informing me that we absolutely had to go to church on Sundays because it was good for our business. This day, what I heard through my "I never get my way" ears were directives to rebel. So much later, I would have equated that to "fuck you." So I did. I rebelled. I went to the backyard, marched straight over to the fence, climbed right over, and hung out with Johnny. I double-checked the picture window only to see my mom watching me do it. So I ran. And I hid at Johnny's for a while, until his dinner time forced me to go home. When I got there, of course, I was met by my mom, who was, well, let's say pissed. There it was, the first conscious lie that I ever remember telling. I swore to no end I did not climb the fence for that furlough. Funny, I have no recollection of explaining my whereabouts, nor do I recall anything about Johnny's. Only the memory of telling that lie and actually believing it. I had not crossed the line. I do not think I've ever recanted that tale. Thank God, invisible pet fences had not been invented yet. I would have spent the rest of my formative years in a collar, or with some fence-induced electroshock lobotomy, who knows. That attention received was a sad compromise, to be sure, but it cemented the idea that this sort of attention was better than none at all, and it started a long-standing trend that I followed for many, many years. It also taught me a valuable lesson that if the lie was to work, then I had to believe it as much, if not more so, than those I was telling it to. 6 years old, smeared finger paint dripping from my grimy hands, and a new masterpiece destined for a shoebox in my mother's closet laid out before me to dry. I suppose it really wasn't fashionable to put bad art on the new fridge back then. What? And hide the ultra-modern avocado color? I was leaned back in my chair, looking as cool as any 6-year-old Romeo can. I envisioned an Elvis Beaver Cleaver or a James Dean, Dennis the Menace combo. Maybe it was more like Danny Partridge, except that I was sure I looked and was as cool as Keith. I'd conveniently positioned myself to right next to the cutest girl in the class, Ann Balance. Now, the irony of her last name will come later. She was beautiful. She was more beautiful than Marcia, and I was certain she was under my spell. So I leaned over when the teacher wasn't looking, and I gave her a peck on the cheek. What happened next was quite shocking to me and very prophetic, to say the least. Miss Ann Balance, the very first love of my life, stood up and kicked the unstable legs of my reclined art table chair right out from under me. The sense of complete powerlessness that I felt was accentuated by the slow motion effect. And that seems to come apparently so you can have a fair chance of fully experiencing the pending trauma, or in my case, head injury. That same slow motion effect does not seem, however, to improve the reaction time of an awkward and clumsy kindergartner like myself. My head bounced off the really hard but fashionable, attractive 50s modern concrete floor, and boom, out go the lights. We can, as a society, stop the evils of exposed screws on playgrounds and make it a law to wear a helmet while you're riding a bicycle, but every school I've ever seen or been in has had these same floors. Go figure that one. So, on that day a pattern emerged. I would psych myself past my own insecurities and my own low self-esteem by presenting an illusion of myself only to be let down. On that day, I guess you could say I got my first mild concussion when I lost my balance while losing Miss Balance. See, I told you it was ironic. The real irony is, though, in first grade, without much provocation or coercion, Ann Balance became my first real girlfriend, and she willingly gave me my first real kiss right on the cheek, just after I chased her halfway home from school, because I dared not risk the attempt around any concrete floors.